Tonight we have guest speaker George Rago. He's an alum of DSU. He graduated. When did you graduate?
Dude, 2018.
Oh man, that's not too bad.
I'm not that old, guys.
He's also works as a sysadmin at Premier Bank. So
Information security admin.
oh, and okay, infosec admin. He founded RagoNet, which you see on the shirt.
Yep.
Probably tell him a little more about that, but yeah.
Yeah. So as you can you guys know, my name is George. I've been doing IT for a little over a decade now. So I'm not that old. I mean, back in the day, we used chisels and a stone to write stuff and code. So, if you guys want to know more about that, I could teach you. No worries. So yeah, my company, I just created that like a bit ago. It's called RagoNet. It's a community platform for IT, social, like networking and stuff like that. So you can meet other people. There's lives. So that's pretty much growing now. I got an app coming out soon here. Just hopefully going to apply for production in 3 days and hopefully it gets out there to billions of users. But today I got like a couple different cool tools over here that I kind of want to just demo just to show you guys. So I'll just start off with the fun stuff. I got an OMG cable. I got 2 of them. How many of you guys are familiar with the OMG cable? Raise your hands. Okay, got a few of you. Okay, that's pretty cool. My favorite thing about it is that you can definitely put payloads in these. They're very sneaky too, because if you compare this to a regular cable, you can't even know the difference. I've had a few, family members I tricked with this. It's kind of hilarious. Of course, they were cool with it, so don't just go out there and plug in people's random phones or computers with this, just FYI. So I do have an Android phone here. I did program this actually, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's when social engineering kicks into play. But don't accept random cables from strangers. Hopefully you guys can see from this far. Probably not, I don't know. But when I plug this in, I don't have to plug this into outlet. As soon as I plug it into my phone, the payload should execute. As you can see, it's opening up a browser. It's hopefully going to start typing things out. If not, that's the part about the OMG cable. It's a hit or miss. You can time it a couple milliseconds. Maybe you have to do some delays to get it to work. You use rubber ducky like scripting, ducky scripting. So I'll get out of this again. I'll plug it again, and this time it'll actually work. So let's see. I did a little cool prank with this thing. It's typing in right now in there, and then as you can see, yeah, simple, cool thing. So if you want to go ahead and trick like your friends, well, not your friends, because again, got to be legal with everything. But you can do it to yourself. If you guys do it to your friends, that's on me. I'm not condoning it, but it's up to you. But that's type C to type C. Another cool thing is if you plug it into someone's phone or your phone, really, you can control it through a Wi-Fi network. So as soon as I plugged it in, a Wi-Fi network came out. It's called OMG. You would go into a browser, go to a specific URL. They gave you the details for that, but you could start doing some custom scripting. You could save payloads on this cable right here, and then you can start executing them depending on the device. This one's specifically programmed to Android. So I'm able to do for Android. I could program it for iPhone because now they're going to type C as well. But now let's say if they have Lightning, because I know I did talk to some kid back here and he had an iPhone with a Lightning cable. So, I have one of those too. So, you're not really clear out of the water when it comes to these cables. So yeah, that's the cool thing about the OMG cable. You can get them. They're pretty accessible, pretty easy. The prices are coming down. They used to have been like $20,000 back in the day. But now they're like a couple $100s, so not terrible. Now, the next thing I want to talk about that I have is called the Flipper Zero. How many of you guys are familiar with that? Okay, all of you guys, of course. Yeah, they're cool. I saw a lot of like reels and shorts, whatever the cool kids look at nowadays. I don't know, MySpace maybe. No one probably knows what that is. Anyways, so the difference about this Flipper Zero and the one you get out of the box is this one has custom firmware. And with this custom firmware, it's called Momentum. There's a couple of different programmers that created this specific firmware, and they added additional things like cool games and stuff, so you can play games on this. But also they added a couple of other features where you could unlock specific bandwidths because they're locked to a specific range, but that actually unlocks it through that program. So you can hit different ranges. Again, you got to be careful when you send out signals with these too, because there's FCC regulations. You go past that, that's illegal and can be a felony. So don't recommend it, of course. Play with caution. I recommend just receiving signals is fine. You could do that any range, no issues there. The big thing I want to talk about though is with this, and I'm sure you guys are familiar, is the RFID capabilities with this. So I did bring a couple of different badges here. Okay, probably don't need that one. I've labeled some of these. So this one says use, so I could do this. And here's a little keypad I brought that I made myself. See how it beeps in the red lights there? So this does not work. And then this one, I believe, shouldn't be programmed, I hope. Okay, it's programmed, so it went green. But in reality, this is the key fob that actually works to that program. Now, I'll go ahead and reset this thing here, because the cool thing is you could read any RFID. Well, not any, actually, I'll show you why. So I'll go ahead and read this one. You hear a little sound there too. And the nice part about this custom firmware is you could turn off the sound, so you can be stealthy about it. So that's the nice cool thing about this custom firmware, which I like. And then there's a couple different options. You got save, emulate, and write. So in this case, I'm just gonna write this card because you guys saw how it worked. It went green and it beeped just the one time. I'll go ahead and write this card. Now this card's a little different than these little small blue RFID tags. This one you only could write one time to. This one you could write multiple times to. I did some research, and apparently if you get the T5577 cards, these ones you can write multiple times, and I don't think there's a limit to it before it, like, you know, doesn't work, I guess. But yeah, so I did, you know, I wrote onto this here, and you can see it doesn't work anymore. So, and this is the good one, just to kind of demo it again. Okay, it goes green. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to go ahead and read this card. So I'm going to exit out here. I'm going to go ahead and read the good card here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and write it back onto this RFID card. Okay, so I wrote it on here. And as you can see now, it works. So these are pretty cool cards. If you ever get a card, I recommend a T5577. Try not to get these different cards. I mean, you can get ones that are T55.7s for these too. But these ones I got at Open Box Crate Store for $5. I was actually about to throw this keypad away, but I'm like, nah, I got to hoard this. I don't know if I'm going to ever need it. 2 years later, I'm using it. So just an FYI. But anyways, so that's one thing. Now, there's a capability of emulating too, which is interesting. The funny part is when I try to emulate to this specific keypad, I never got it to work, which is interesting. Because most times it usually should work. But as you can see, I'm emulating right now, and it's not, you know, making any sound or doing anything. So usually when it comes to these type of things, you might want to just get a card like a T5577 just in case. It's usually better to write on a card than it is to emulate. Now, have I gotten the emulation to work on this? Yes, I've done it before. I'm not gonna say where. I got approval for it, by the way, just FYI. But there's that. So just an FYI. Now, I do have another RFID tag here. What's interesting about this one is when I try to read it, and I let this sit for like, you know, maybe 5-10 minutes, and nothing was read out of it. Well, there's cards that have like encryption on these. So again, it's based on the firmware capabilities on these. And as of right now, it's not able to read this. Now, is there a way to be able to read this without using the Flipper Zero? Yes. I don't have the tool. I was going to buy it, but they're kind of inflated for the pricing right now. It's called a Proxmark 3. So those ones, you could run specific programming on it, and then you should be able to read any card and rewrite them usually, depending on the, you know, encryption and standards on some of these cards. So it makes a big difference. But yeah, that's a couple cool capabilities with this. Another thing I guess I might as well get into the Flipper is you can do some add-ons, which is kind of nice. You know, here's like a Wi-Fi board that I got as well. You can plug these in. Of course, they tell you to usually turn off your device, so I'll go ahead and turn it off before putting this in here. So a couple of things you could definitely do with this is you could de-auth devices. Now, the funny thing, it's like the Pineapple, but the problem is with the Pineapple and these is they have limitations. So there's Wi-Fi 6 that's out there, so you can't really de-auth Wi-Fi 6, at least right now with these. I've tried it. I was like, oh, it's not working. So of course you have to go to the older models like WPA2, and it has to be specific WPA2. Unless there's some other like software that's out there that exists that you can use to bypass a lot of that. But a couple cool things I can do with this is there are payloads that come with Momentum. Again, this is not something that comes pre-built into a Flipper when you first buy it. And you can go to the GitHub repository and download it and then install it as well. So, man, I wish I had a screen I could show you guys. You can't see what I'm doing, but so there's a couple of different things. There's a GPIO folder that I have that comes in that GitHub repository. And then I can go to, it's called ESP for the folder. And I could definitely do similar things to what a Pineapple can do. I can create an evil portal so people can, if they log into the Wi-Fi, they can, you know, see that pop up there. I can do some camera stuff, which I'll never do. There's deauthor in here as well. And there's a couple of different things you can do as well, which is interesting. But there's Wi-Fi Marauder, which is my favorite. So, and I could do this like, I'm gonna switch this to this. Okay, so let me see if this works. All right, so I'm running something right now, which is kind of hilarious. So if you actually pull up your Wi-Fi, hopefully it should show some interesting Wi-Fi names. And you can't connect to them. I tried. So does anybody kind of see what's going on in the Wi-Fi? Oh, you see it? So as you can see, you should see the Rickroll lyrics pop up on the Wi-Fi. So there's one that says, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you. Just keep reading it. So that's kind of the cool things with this. Yeah, which is interesting. And again, there's a couple different things you can do. You can have some fun with this. This is perfectly legal, just FYI, just emulating Wi-Fi stuff. But you know, don't do any nefarious things, never recommend. But yeah, so there's a couple different things you could do with Flipper. You could add different attachments for like GPS. You could spoof it, mess with that too. Again, don't do that. But so yeah, this is pretty much the Flipper Zero. Another thing is like these OMG cables. You could run like ducky scripting and stuff. You could plug a cable, plug it to a phone, and pretty much be like a rubber ducky. So that's another cool thing with this. So there's a lot of capabilities with this, like a Swiss Army knife in a sense, with a lot of different things you can do. So there's that. Now, the next thing I kind of want to talk about is, how many of you guys know what a Hack RF1 is? Okay, a few of you guys, it's pretty cool. So this is a Hack RF1. Now, the funny thing is, this thing is pretty pricey, and it's cool, I'm not gonna lie. But the problem is there's no battery, you have to plug it to a computer, you know, and you don't want to haul your computer around and do all that stuff. So there's another cool thing out there, which is the PortaPack. So I got the newest version. Luckily, I kind of waited because the Hack RF1 PortaPack H4n came out. The nice thing about this is there's a switch on here that could turn this on and off. The other one has like a weird like turnstile knob, which if you bump into it, it will turn it on and like turn off at random times. You don't want that. And hopefully it doesn't go to some random thing, which, you know, again, receiving signals is fine, but transmitting is not great. And there's a lot of things that's programmed in here that can be very illegal if not carefully used, just FYI. So the nice thing about this is that there are several different antennas. I got a few. So I got one of these. These all hit within specific ranges. I also found out this antenna, I could actually expand it. Didn't know that, took me a few months to figure that out. But each antenna serves its purpose. I do actually have another antenna. I've never used it, but I think it's kind of funny and cool, but very bulky. I actually left it in its bag, as you can see it, like I truly use it. Let's see. Take this out. Okay, so this is another version. There's like a bulky cable, and then this. I think this is for lower frequencies. Again, I've never used it. I've always gotten everything between these two different antennas. So that's pretty cool. Actually, before I go on, did anybody have any questions about like the OMG cables or like the Flipper Zero that I could answer if you guys have any? Before I go on to the Hack RF now? Okay, cool. All right, so basically with this, you have to attach this to here. And these do come with like built-in amplifiers. So if you want to transmit signals, that's kind of what it's for there. So I'm gonna go back here, and here's the difference. There's a couple different tools and things in here. You probably can't see from this far, but I'll explain it to my best of my ability. So there's a couple different blocks here. There's receive and there's transmit. I spend most of my time on the receive side because again, you got to get more comfortable with that and versus the transmit. Now, there are different things you do transmit, but I'll get to that in a bit. There's capture, replays, and like remote. There's a couple different things on here, like microphone. Well, yeah, there's a built-in microphone too, so you could use this as a walkie-talkie. Is it the greatest? Probably not, but it works. So I didn't bring any walkie-talkies to try it out. Should have, I wish. Maybe next time. And there's like different utilities. The main thing I'm going to focus on is the receive side. And there's a couple different cool features here that's already pre-built on this. My favorite is the ADS-B. Does anybody know what that is? Randomly gonna ask. Okay, cool. So there's a picture of an airplane on there. So if you know where I'm going with this, it's pretty cool. So right now I'm running it. Hopefully we're like, okay, so there's a plane that's around here flying, by the way. So it's picking this up. So there's usually what happens if you're close to an airport, you're gonna see a ton of planes on here, their tail numbers, their identification, all that. So once I go in here, I can click on it and it tells me the speed and everything on it. Oh, there's another plane that popped up. Cool. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this one. So there's a couple of details that get shown about that plane on here, which is actually pretty interesting. Again, it was fascinating when I first got this. And this is actually, believe it or not, this thing is cheaper than this. And I'll explain like why later, just FYI. So anyways, so there's a couple of information in here too. So the one I'm seeing right now, let's see, I'm gonna click on AC details. So this one belongs to what? This is a weird name. Okay, it's called Hawker Beechcraft. So, and it's a land plane. It's a jet engine type, and it says it's an Executive Air Taxi Corp. So there's a ton of information that's on here, gives you model and all that. So as you see different planes, you can see who it belongs to, whether it's like American Airlines or a personal owner. So that's another thing about these tail numbers, like license plates. It tracks back to someone specific. So that's a pretty cool thing about this. Now the other thing is you can click on see on map, and you can actually see the plane on the map. So yeah, you have to actually do some, you know, elbow greasing to get this map on here because I struggled for a little bit. Then I figured out how to run a different script, do a couple different things, and then finally got the maps downloaded and installed on here. So that took a little bit, but it's on here now, so I'm okay. And I don't know if I could show this on like a camera somewhere so people can see this. No? Okay.
We know.
Oh, you probably can't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's got a
yeah.
glitch.
And okay. So, and there's another plane. So as planes pop up around, you're gonna start seeing on the map, which is pretty cool. That's at least one thing I see about this. And then there's other capabilities as well. So this can definitely read. Let's go back here. So, and there's also boats. We're not near an ocean, and maybe on the lake, if you're lucky, if it has those transmitters and stuff like that, you should be able to see it too. But I never got anything to pop up, so you know, nice being about in the Middle East here, or not Middle East, Midwest. Oh my goodness, I don't know why I'm thinking that, but yeah. Anyways, it's pretty much like that, I guess, in like a desert, middle of nowhere with like no water really. But anyways, there's also a couple different things here too. So I'll just show you kind of a demo that you can actually hear because you can pick up any signal waves. If you sit there, you go through different channels, you should be able to pick up like any radio, like ham radio, to FM AM radio, plane communication, which is actually pretty interesting. Haven't got lucky with that yet, but I'm not that patient. If I sat there long enough, I'm sure I could pick up radio chatter from like the planes. But I'll go to the radio, and I'm gonna just try to find a random radio station. I realize there's not a lot of radio stations out here that work because like 104.7 just cuts out, and all the other stations I listen to usually. I don't know if it's just me, but and there's different bands too. So there's like WFM, AM, and all that. So I'll just try to find a channel. Yeah, so there you go. See, I can pick up radio and stuff. And the cool thing is there's a speaker on this. So this is FYI. That's why I like this Porta Pack. If I use this, I can't hear anything unless maybe I play it on my computer. But yeah. So there's a couple of cool things with that. Also, I could change the band. If I change it, it's going to cut that out to something else. So this is the SPEC. This AM. You know, you could see the frequency here. So the other thing is you could adjust it with the amp. I'm going to switch it back because I don't like that static. You can listen to music. But yeah, there's an amp here too that you could change around here. See, as I change it, I lowered the amp frequency, so now I can't hear anything. There's times you need to do that depending on the strength of the signal that's coming in to adjust and try to like hear it out. So see, I'm increasing the amplification on this to, or the picking up for the signal. Now it's clear. So there's a couple things too, and there's a couple other buttons on top here you could hit. I don't, you probably can't see it. It's a little glitchy, but it kind of gives you like the stats of it, so you could adjust according for that. There's a certain range you want to hit. I think it's like 70% on, I forgot what it's called. I just know what to look at, so been on this thing for a while. Okay, let me switch off this radio real quick. All right. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool thing here. Yeah, if you spend a lot of time, a lot of these things you could definitely look up online too for certain ranges that a lot of different communications are on. So if you're ever bored or something and you have one of these, I just recommend sitting there, trying to like go through it, try to get used to it. It's pretty cool. And then also there's another aspect of this too, is, oh boy, I just hit the reset button. Okay, there we go. Is Bluetooth. So that's another thing. That's another thing about SDR, you know, software defined radio, is that there's signals everywhere. We don't pay attention much to it, maybe just Wi-Fi, cell service, whatever. But there's a ton of different signals out here that exist, like Bluetooth and all that. They all have their different specific ranges. But when I'm doing this, I'm just seeing a ton of Bluetooth devices, you know, which is pretty cool. Even if they're on, what is it, the Bluetooth low emitting. So that's usually when it's dormant. Like, for example, if I turn off my Bluetooth on my phone through iPhone, yeah, if you don't do it through the settings, it's still on, by the way. It's just on low energy mode. So that's the thing about this. And this thing will pick it up. So I can do like, well, a malicious actor can definitely push like, you know, payloads or something to try to wake it up or find vulnerabilities. There's vulnerabilities to specific Bluetooth versions and so forth. So that's another thing of just to keep in mind. I usually turn off all my things, like Wi-Fi, whatever, if I'm not at home. or like travel somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'm too paranoid, but who knows? Just an FYI. But also there's some scripts and stuff you could put in here as well too that you can execute just from this. Similar to this as well. You could probably pretty much do a similar thing there as well too. Okay. And another thing I didn't really mention, I forgot too about this Flipper Zero. I won't demonstrate here, but you could do Bluetooth spamming. So like I don't know if you guys heard about the iOS crashing, like the phones crashing, locking up and freezing. That's because of this. Apple did patch the crashing piece and the freezing piece of that, but you still could spam people with pop-ups and annoy them. So just an FYI. And I did this when I was out in the farm, far away from people. My sibling has a farm pretty far out, so that's when I tested it for fun. I will never do it in city because if you're around people who has iPhones, will get spammed. And there's one for Android too, by the way. I did that, and only one pop-up came, and that's it. So disappointing. Another cool thing about this, just to go on the different features in the app, it's called ERT meter. So an ERT meter is like the gas meters, the electric meters near your house. This picks that up too. I actually managed to do that when I was over at my parents' house. I saw the meters. You get all the information and details. So those emit signals. Again, you could probably do a lot of things with that. Another thing is you could look up weather balloons. You could pick those up. Again, they're all on their frequencies. They're all emitting some sort of frequency out there. And then there's weather, and there's a ton of stuff here. Analog TV, yeah, that's been obsolete. But if there was, you could watch TV on here if it was emitting that through the signals. Just an FYI there. And then also TPMS sensors, so like your tire pressures, like if it's low, you get a little light when you're dash. You can pick those up. I know in California it was being exploited. I don't know if you guys saw the articles about that, where people would jam it. Okay, it seems like you know. But they would jam it and people would pull it to the side, thinking, the tires are flat, but in reality it wasn't. And a group of guys would just come over there and either take their car or do something. So it doesn't happen here, just FYI, because we're, South Dakota's amazing. But in bigger cities, there's usually issues like that where people tend to abuse it. And there's another thin thing too is with these, a lot of threat actors or bad actors would use this to try to pinpoint devices in cars. I don't know if in California, a couple other places, they'll smash windows to try to grab people's stuff. They would actually use this and a specific antenna and point it at cars. It's like directional. It's not like it's going to hit wide. Like this one is reaching everywhere, but there's certain antennas you can get that you can point specific directions and it'll only reach out and try to find stuff that area, not behind it or the side of it. So they would go around and point it at cars to see if they could find Bluetooth or something. And once they find it, they would go to that vehicle and just take the stuff. So they're, in a sense, you could say evolving in their techniques of instead of just going random cars, they now can target specific because of these tools, which is interesting. Now, it's funny because most people don't know about these tools, which is crazy. It's kind of a good thing, but it's also great to be aware of these type of tools. Now, the one thing I do want to talk about is the transmit. So this transmitting part is, I'm always very careful on this side because, there's a lot of different things you could do. One thing I'll mention is like, again, if someone was trying to be, do malicious intent or whatever, mess around, which I don't recommend, just messing around, having fun, just see what happens. But you could definitely probably talk to people through walkie-talkies, probably airplane communications too, because if you can receive it, chances are you can emit it back. Again, there's FCC regulations and things like that you don't want to do. And then there's also like things with like street lamps, street lights. You can control those. A lot of them have like signals, remotes you could usually do it with too as well. Again, Bluetooth, you can do Bluetooth attacks and stuff too as well with this. You can write custom scripts, carry this with you, and then just pretty much do that. And there's a couple other things too. You could like emit like radio. So there's radio stations. You could play your own music, upload them in here, and then just emit it on specific frequencies and people pick it up. Again, it depends on the amplification. So if the radio station has radio towers, those are probably stronger than these. But if you're closer to someone else's antenna, chances are this might be able to overpower the radio signals coming from the radio stations. So there's that. And there's a plane mode. I'm not going to touch that. So, and then there's key fobs. So these can definitely pick up key fobs as well, like your car keys. Now, there's a thing about and same thing with the Flipper Zero. These two can do quite a bit similar to each other. But again, I feel like this is way more capable other than the fact that this can't do RFID things or NFC and so forth. But with the key fobs, you can pick them up and then you can replay them. So people can use it to unlock your cars and lock them and so forth. But most manufacturers realize this is an issue and a lot of people are exploiting it. They'll do rolling codes. Are you guys familiar with like rolling codes? Okay, it seems like some of you guys are. Okay, so every time you'd use your clicker and it would reach out to your car, it would rotate the code after in use. So once it's used, it rotates. so that's pretty much what it does. So you could probably try to code something and do something to try to get around that, but that's a lot of work. I mean, I personally didn't want to try it because I'm like, man, I'm so busy. But maybe one of these times I will. But yeah, that's something cool about this. You can do, and that's Bluetooth spam, of course. So similar to this Flipper Zero, but this could probably go further out than the Flipper Zero can because again, the capabilities of this is pretty interesting. Again, there's GPS stuff as well too, so you can mess with people's GPS. I haven't, yeah, I won't recommend it. Maybe you can make them go a different direction or something. I don't know. But I haven't done anything with the GPS side of this yet. I'm sure I could probably pick up something. But yeah, just have, again, limited on time. And this other piece, again, very illegal, FYI. It's called a jammer. You could jam signals with this. Again, you could select specific ranges and jam it. Probably like Wi-Fi, whatever, cell phones, so forth. Again, it depends on the power level of this. The more you can amplify the power of the jamming, the more it can actually block out the signal. So it's whoever's winning with the signal power level usually wins that. So this might do like Bluetooth similar, simple, like easy devices that don't emit a lot of power. So there's that. Now, another cool thing I haven't done yet, I do want to do eventually at some point, and is with these Hacker F1s, maybe probably this one, I probably, sacrifice this one and this one, but anyways, so like for example, like, there's Dish TV and stuff like that. So those like satellite dishes, you could use that with this and actually pick up satellites too. Again, everything emits on a signal. So yeah, so you could pretty much like, if you point it in the right direction, again, you have to find out where it's at and stuff like that. But apparently, it's a new thing that's happening in mainly different countries, because again, doing that stuff is illegal, but they would try to hack satellites. And that would be the one way to hack satellites. Again, those are probably older satellites. Newer ones have like different security measures in place, which is great. Again, the more people are familiar with SDR, the more you can focus on the cyber side of that. Because most times people think about like, devices like, oh, I gotta make sure, my phone has like antivirus, my computer, this, that, and firewalls and whatnot for a lot of your networks. But again, you gotta think about the SDR side and satellites and space. There's other areas that most people don't realize, even key fobs. Like people don't think of security on that. And again, if you get an encrypted like key fob, like as you can see, like I couldn't pick up my key fob for my apartment there, but it's one of those things where there's some trade-offs, but also builds in visibility. Same thing with rolling codes. That's why it was introduced for vehicles because people would use it. But yeah, so that's another thing about these is that there's a lot of these tools. They're very accessible. They're very easy to obtain. It just really depends on what you do with them. I recommend for learning. It's great. Just get the idea, and then also doing like presentations and show and tells with these would be some ideal things there. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got in a quick high level overview. But one thing I could definitely show too, I got one of these old things. This is when I got it back when I was in school. It's a little USB like Wi-Fi antenna. There's specific ones you can use with Kali Linux. You could do some like Wi-Fi stuff with it. But again, I could do the same thing with the Flipper. I could do the same thing with this Hacker F1. So it's kind of obsolete. But I also have a Pineapple. I did not bring it. I wish I did. But yeah, that's everything I got so far. Any questions or anything you guys want me to talk more about? Yes?
What's the device called with the antenna on it and stuff?
This one?
Yeah.
This is a Hacker F1 Portapack. So literally it's this, but this one has like all the batteries and touchscreen and LCD display. Yeah. So
Does the Portapack, are you able to connect that to your computer as well to use a traditional SDR software?
yes. Yep, it has that capability to do that. And oh yeah, by the way, where I got this is I got it from Alibaba, and this is $135 versus the $365 I paid for this thing. So, and I use this more than I do this. Yeah, but yeah, you can plug this in. Also, there's I think pairing mode. So if you pair multiple, again, you have to time it right with the time on it. So like if this is like showing 336, the other one's showing 335. It's not in sync, so the timing's off and it won't work as well. So you have to synchronize them for that. So, any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned ham radio. Have you done any work with that?
Oh, I tried. I failed. It depends on time. I try to spend a little bit of time on that. Try to hit different ranges. But you have to sit there and you have to hope someone's on there talking, because sometimes maybe I was on the time when no one was talking because I had it on there for like a few, like I'd say like an hour spent on the ham radio side. I didn't hear anything, so either A, they're not in close range, or B, no one was just talking that time. So yeah. Oh yes.
I know a lot of like things like walkie-talkies now, like they have like encrypt the channels. Are there like ways around that for those devices? I mean, kind of You know, maybe we can put.
Yeah, no, great question. Yes. So they do encrypt a lot of these different signals with like, radio communications. Now, again, it's like, Wi-Fi. You want to crack the password, like, or do something like that. So, they have some decoders that you can utilize, especially with planes. You have to use specific ones to decode to listen to communications. I don't know a lot too much into like what they do to get those decoders or how they decode it, but those are some of the things you could definitely utilize. Maybe search on GitHub or something. Maybe someone's out there who's done it. But you can use those decoders to decode those signals and actually pick up information from it. So same thing with like satellite TV. They used to never encrypt their communications when they're sending out video like movies and stuff. So people would intercept it and watch free movies without having to pay. So they're like, we want you guys to pay. We want you guys to use our dish and to get like all the to get the movies from satellites and so forth like that. So now they have decoders from the box, so the box decrypts them, and the decryption keys, or no, the keys for the encryption changes as well on the box with decryption keys change too. So it's like a rolling code, like your key fobs and so forth. Yeah. Any other questions? No. Okay. Oh yes. Go ahead.
They were playing in a cap listening to like PC sources, these vehicles, ambulances and that.
Yes, actually, you can. All those are within those specific range that a hacker if one could pick up. Again, like you were saying earlier about the encryption piece of that, so they might encrypt their communications. I'm not aware that they have, but again, I don't spend a lot of time into that. Mainly, I try to focus on like ham radio or weather or something like that because that's kind of interesting to see how truckers talk. Again, it depends on the interest I have. Usually, I kind of focus on that, but I might have to try it one of these times to see. As far as I can tell, I don't think they do because you can get apps and you can listen to a lot of the EMS stations of like local areas. I do know that some of that communication usually gets dropped or they have to update the channels just because now they're starting to realize people are using it to get ahead of like situations, so if they're like bad actors or something like, oh, cops are coming this way, so I'm going to leave this way, like they're here to get me. So yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
With the OMG cable, have you seen some of the other ones they make? Like there's one that like locks into the USB port of your laptop and you can't close it, or you can't take it out of your laptop until the malware finishes running. Have you tried any other ones?
I have not. Those ones I think you have to build them yourself.
Oh really?
Yeah, I didn't know anywhere that you can buy those. I tried looking, but I did see a video of that. So was it like maybe a month ago? And this guy is very interested. I forgot his name, but he would do something like that, or he would have it like melt or kind of like do blue smoke or do some random stuff. Yeah, so yeah, there's a couple of different things, and yes, that would be the best way is if you know someone and well, not someone, but if someone's a malicious actor and they want to complete a payload, they would do something like that where it'd be very difficult to yank out and have it finish that process to whether it's to execute malicious payload or download malicious payload or whatever they decide to code it to do something specific. So any other questions?
You know how long the battery lasts?
This one, thing is, when I'm looking at the battery thing, it changes a lot, and it still works. So I don't know what the battery percentage usually is. Again, it's somewhat cheap for what it is, but it works. The lithium battery is pretty big, so I would say it lasts a pretty long time. I've only charged it twice, and I've used this quite a bit. So yeah, it's pretty good. Now the flipper, I've used it quite a bit of time too as well, and I haven't charged this thing for like 4 months, and it's still at 100%. So these are pretty crazy, man. Yeah, good question though. Yeah. Oh, any other questions from anyone? No? Okay. Oh, another thing is I do like talking fast. My brain's just, kind of like fast processors, a couple of them, but hence why I have all these different cool tools. Is just my brain's like, I'm curious about this. I want to dig in. So that's another ththing. If you're curious about something, try to dig into it, try to learn about it, because chances are it does apply into your field, especially like, Flipper Zero. Yeah, if you work at you're a company, of course, get your boss's approval first, but see if something like a Flipper Zero can get into areas or do some social engineering. Try grab like a badge from someone, and again, proved only, proved. And then see if you can access certain areas with this. So, or something like that. It's like a little red teaming. So, yeah. Cool. Any other questions? And you can ask me personal questions too. It doesn't have to be related to this either. So, I've been in the industry for a while. So,
physical.
Yes. Yes. I actually I convinced my boss to see if I could use the flipper, and he said, "Yeah, go for it." He didn't even care. I was like, "Oh, cool, sweet." He was curious to himself to see, and I did use it, but I won't tell you the results. But you know, it was kind of fun. Yeah. Yes.
I'm curious what Ragonet actually is. Could you talk about that?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, I like being an entrepreneur. Another thing about being tech is that you could definitely do your own thing as well. You could learn a lot of, you know, coding, all that. So you could utilize those type of things in your skill sets. So Ragonet, it's a platform that I built. It's like pretty much like Facebook. But the problem with like Facebook, you know, Reddit, Stack Overflow is that a lot of times there's people who tend not to be positive or bash on you and or you know not really helpful at times. So my goal as for Ragonet is to build a community with people who are like-minded individuals, but also people to network and help each other. Another thing is I do know like a lot of people in the industry because I've been in it for a while, like over a decade. You know, I've met some other people who has way more experience than I do, like over 20 years, coming on 30 years. They're always looking for a place to try to mentor people. So I kind of want to build that or bridge that gap by bringing people on, experts like my friends, and then or students or anyone else who's not as you know level as they are when it comes to experience, so they can mentor people. Or if you're looking for mentees, I guess for experts, they could come there and try to help people out too. You know, so I've been doing this since like pretty much last year March. But yeah, that's the goal. Another thing too is I do have live, so it's like Twitch. My platform's like Twitch, Facebook, Reddit, all in one pretty much. Without the distraction, it's only IT focused. Specifically, I have an app coming out soon. I have to work through some bugs from Apple, so I have to fix that one issue, and then I pretty much push it out. And then Android, I have by this Sunday. I'm counting down the time because they require 14 days, which is kind of crazy. But once it's Sunday, I could push it out for production for them to test it, and then hopefully everything passes, and then it's on the Android Play Store. So, any other questions? I'm kind of fast. It's like 37 minutes. No, right. Another thing too is I don't know. I brought some merch, so if you guys still want some merch, I got like lanyards, got pens. If we run out, I have a bunch more in my car. I just didn't know if you guys want merch or not, but it's up to you. Trying to think. Another thing too is I'll say this too. When it comes to like tech stuff, you know, interning is great. Again, everything also comes down to like who you know as well. Networking. So if you looking for I don't know someone network, I'm a guy you could reach out to anytime. Get me on LinkedIn. If you have questions about like certain paths, I could try to point you in the right direction or find someone else too that I know that could help out in those certain areas as well. I know programmers. I know people like who's in networking, cloud, whatever. So and cyber. I mean, that's kind of the route I'm in. Yeah. Yeah.